Welcome back to the Live Better podcast. I'm your host and Centric Senior Vice President of Marketing, Kelli Green. We're excited to join you today with one of our guests. His name is Kais Dwairi. He's actually the General Manager of the Vaughn Group Toyota dealership in Bastrop. And today we're going to be talking about best practices when purchasing a vehicle, but also learning about how to partner with credit unions when you're looking for your next vehicle. Well, good morning and welcome, Kais.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. We're so glad to have you here on our podcast. This is such an exciting time. And thank you so much for accepting our invitation to connect.
Oh, definitely. No, looking forward to it. Been waiting for it all weekend.
Well, talk to me a little bit too. I know we've talked a little bit, so we've got a good bit of background, but if you wouldn't mind, just share with our listeners who you are, what your current role is with Vaughn Group.
I am currently the general manager at Vaughn Toyota Bastrop. Have been there since we opened our doors on December of 2022. I'm originally from Ruston, Louisiana. Started my career at Brennan Dodge back in 2010. Worked there for a couple of years. Then I transitioned over to Western Row. Worked for Interstate Dodge for about 7 years as a finance manager. Just about a couple of years ago, I decided I wanted to transition into, overseeing the store and making some changes I felt were needed. And then I went ahead at that point, stepped up and moved over to a general sales manager position for about 2 years. And once I got comfortable with what I felt was the right play for us to make a dealership work, at that point, I had a great opportunity with the Vaughn organization. They contacted me and asked me to come through and pretty much just see if I can make the general manager position work out and change the way that people view us at that particular dealership, especially with reopening a store that already had a fundamental reputation through this city. And how can we transition that with, a more happier customers and have them overlook their past at that dealership. So a lot of our hard times have honestly been just taking that last name and rebuilding it into what we felt was the right way to look at this particular dealership and what it should be.
I love it. Local dealership, but you guys are throughout the state, is that right?
Yes, we have multiple locations between the Natchitoches, between Alexandria, Bunkie, LeCount, Oakdale. So we, in the Northeast Louisiana, I can always say to our customers that we have probably about 400 used cars to pick through. We have access to sell from all of our dealerships. Our salesmen who are licensed at all of the 8 stores, they can sell from Chevrolets to Ford to Dodge. And as far as used car inventory, if it exists in one of our 8 stores, we can definitely have it brought up for our customers.
Nice.
So that's the convenience I think Northeast Louisiana has been seeing coming into our dealership.
Absolutely. Well, and one of the things I wanted to share too, and kind of how we've gotten started. Now, I know that I'd love to talk more about the financial history and your relationship too with just dealing with members every day, but also talking through, you and I have similar financial journeys after we've had our conversation. But before we jump into that, one of the things I really wanted to line out and make sure our listeners understand is with us partnering with dealerships like Vaughn, we have a partnership through what's called indirect lending.
Yes.
And indirect lending, what that does is it allows our members and new members alike to go and visit your car dealership. We can even take a look at the inventory online and see, what is available. And also to kind of work hand in hand to provide a loan from Centric, but also you guys hand the keys right on over at the dealership. So that's the indirect lending side of things. I feel like is very important, especially with our members. Like you've mentioned, the reach that you have throughout the state of Louisiana. You open up that inventory for our folks and have the ability to even do their lending at an off-site, so to speak. We take care of it with Centric, but we have that unique relationship too, just to ensure we want a safe, affordable vehicle.
Yes.
The right price for our members. And so we just appreciate you guys taking care of our members for sure.
Definitely. Now, we definitely enjoy to try to take care of them the best we know how.
Oh, yeah. Well, kind of take us through this too, because a lot of our listeners, whether they currently have a financial hardship, maybe perhaps they've walked through building credit. Do you want to maybe take us through kind of your experience with Centric?
As far as my personal perspective of it, I can say as a new buyer, years and years ago, that I always tell people that, and that's kind of one of the fights that we have consistently, and I've learned it from my personal experiences. Having a relationship with a credit union like Centric has definitely worked out for me. I came in probably about well over 15 years ago and coming out of college and trying to learn how to work my credit. I came in and sat with a loan officer back when I was in Ruston and just that's kind of the missing components I think a lot of people have forgotten, is that the power that they have when they're dealing with their credit unions, and something I try to instruct our new buyers and the refinancing options, things that I've walked myself through, and me having to go in and actually probably didn't get the first car that I wanted. What I tell people, you didn't come when you come in as a first time buyer.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think we all want our first dream car. And I still remember my first dream car coming into the dealership, and I believe it was a Daytona.
Oh, yeah.
When I realized it was outside of my budget, and sat down with the loan officer, and it's like, here's what we can approve you with. Here's what kind of payments you're looking for. If you go to this particular amount, here's what you're looking to do in as far as your payments. And I kind of had that pre-selected in my head. And going into it as a new buyer at that time, I just finally, went back to the dealership. It was like 1, 2, 3. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's the budget I need to work off of. And as a person that came in through the credit union, as my first time to build my credits, it gave me a different perspective of how I deal with customers today, because I know how to. I have that recent experience, I guess, where I remind myself of what it was to get my credit moving again, especially with, I guess I won't say bad credit or good credit in our situation. Mine was, student loans, and just reactivating my credit on a good term with an actual auto. And I went in there and told them, hey, here's my budget. Here's what I want to do. And once the salesman that I was working with actually put me on the right vehicle, and this was prior to me actually working at a dealership.
Yeah.
And I landed on a vehicle that I was able to afford, paid it off completely, didn't trade it in. I actually handed it over to one of my family members over the years. So being advised of how to purchase a vehicle the right way with the loan officers, or hopefully sitting down with the right people, whether it's a sales consultant or loan officer, even a finance manager at a dealership, and knowing your budget, I think is the mistaken issues that you see a lot of people walk into. They overwhelm themselves because of a dream car, because of what they wanted rather than what they needed.
That's right.
The loan officer I dealt with in Ruston through Centric, I think she had to woke me up and said, I know you want a Daytona,
Yeah.
but you may want to, here's the budget that you can't afford. And so that was a great experience for me to go in and put myself in a different position. So it opened many doors for me, and being able to, I told you earlier on that I actually went through my mortgage and all that through Centric. So having that opportunity long term will build trust for me as a customer and the consumer myself, and was able to recontinue my relationship with Centric afterward.
Well, we appreciate you doing business with us, and I appreciate your journey sharing that, because I think the relationship with your loan officer, you mentioned trust being a critical component. Trust goes a long way with building and sustaining those relationships. And something I invite our members, and especially our listeners today, it's really important to connect with someone here at Centric that you feel like you can really trust, and be open and honest. If you're looking to make a big purchase, something like a vehicle, talk with someone maybe before you go onto the car lot and see what's available, because I think it's putting that into perspective. You're not trying to build yourself up just to let yourself down, so to speak. Working hand in hand with your loan officer helps really prepare you as you enter the car lot, and they may meet you or someone from your team, and really helping them kind of navigate. Here's where I'm at, here's my budget. And, I know you're going to help us get through this and identify the cars that'll work best for us and with our budget. So that's critical. I think you said trust being the key component of that. And I think that goes on both sides of the coin too, car dealerships, but also with your lender. So just, Kais, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of take us through a couple things. We've talked about maybe what are some things we can do to prepare before we get ready to buy a car, but would you add anything to that?
I think you hit on all those things that I would have brought up. Actually, some of the things that I was actually reviewing yesterday when I was thinking about our conversation, and I always try to relate to myself as the customer. Because I'm recently, in the recent months, my wife and I are back in the market again, thinking about upgrading for her. Most people think just because, okay, you have great credit, go buy whatever you want.
That's right.
The things that I've noticed are very common mistakes. And I had a customer over this weekend, actually would have been a perfect example. He didn't have any established credit. He was coming in with a certain amount of money down. I think consumers usually, when they walk in, know your budget, know what you want to put down, so you don't feel pressure either through the loan officer. Even going to talk to the credit unions, I encourage that to my lenders all the time. As far as when my customers come in, they say, hey, I want to buy a car. When you go in and talking to them, I'll ask them, hey, who do you bank with? Is it Centric? Is it, on one of the other credit unions in town? I've always went through specifically of encouraging my customers to open an account with the credit unions. I think it's not so much as anything else, but with credit unions, you get to build an actual relationship. You get to walk in, they lend to their community, they lend to consumers nearby. you're not just another digit like some of the major lenders that we know of, like Capital One and all that. You actually get to meet someone that wants to try to help you out. They see the way your accounts are revolving, so they kind of understand your budget better. And the mistake that I think most buyers come in, and one in particular I think of this weekend that kind of makes this easy, he came in with the idea that he wanted a particular vehicle that was way outside of his budget. Once we went down to it, and I had to explain to him multiple times, like, look, as the income that you have, where you're sitting at, and I honestly try to put him on a brand new vehicle. And it was a Corolla, and I try to explain that to him. Him pulling himself away, he was choosing a more of used pre-owned vehicle, not understanding the way the interest rates work and how that could affect him in the long term. And just having consumers just sit down, whether it's with the loan officer, sometimes even sitting with a parent or someone that has done it before, and just saying, hey, what would be the right way to buy a vehicle? For me, myself, it's just knowing what you can afford.
Yes.
Budgeting yourself, understanding, hey, I might still have car insurance to pay, which gets forgotten a lot of times when people purchase a vehicle, and what other commitments do I have? So it's very common that people go outside of their budget, and then they leave the finance office, they sign paperwork, they're ecstatic about it. Then wake up call, I still got car insurance.
That's right.
And I hear that a lot from the young buyers is, I didn't think about the car insurance, which right now with insurance being so high, it can vary from $300, $400, $500. So that should play a big portion before I walk into and buy a dealership. So I think that's where I think a lot of consumers, especially young consumers, make the mistake, and then we have to restart. And hopefully if we do have a car that works again for their budget, they get out of there, they notice the insurance is high, they come to us, say, hey, I can't afford this insurance. And now we have to look for a cheaper car. Now you're fighting them with their standard and making them understand what is actually the right vehicle. The need is what I was referred to. Yes. I need a car to go to work. I think we all do. I want a really nice car, but I might want to start my credit and allow myself to use that first interest rate that new buyers get. Probably not the smallest interest rates you want to hear about, but that car that you get should be the one that builds your credit to get you maybe to your dream car. If not your dream car, get you to a car that's more affordable due to the right interest rates. And that's where I really do preach it, that the credit unions, for myself as a member, I speak on this on a whole different level because I have dealt with Centric since the time being in Ruston and when they were located on Highway 80 and way before they have went to, it's amazing what I watched Centric grow to. And I've watched those people actually walking me through my loans. And the second time I walked in, I felt more confident as a consumer and as a buyer. And I told them, hey, I'm looking to purchase another car. I wasn't as uncomfortable, and I think that's the thing most people don't realize. When they walk into these buildings and walk into Centric, I remind my consumers all the time is, when you walk in, I said, you notice the people you see in those offices. I said, they look like they can intimidate you, and they go, yes. I'm like, they're just like you and I. They're here to help you. They're loan officers. I was like, no different than the sales consultant or the finance manager. So walk in there, go to the reception, say you want to speak to a loan officer, and let them walk you through the right way to buy a car and possibly even get you a pre-approval. Just because a dealership couldn't get you done doesn't mean your credit union, if you're a member, cannot get you done. So I think not giving up on your credit union and joining the local banks and being part of that for the community, you'll be amazed how that turns people's life around.
I agree. I think it's very critical. Buying a car is, something that, because of where we're located, we are, more rural locations. So we can't always necessarily, rely on a city bus or any sort of other transportation. So having a vehicle is something that's really, really critical for us. And, a lot of folks are looking for ways in which they can find a vehicle that's most affordable for them. And I just really wanted to recap, Kais, on a few things, that you've said today, because I think it really bears merit to say, trust is critical in a local financial institution, building a relationship, and Centric is here for our members. We're within 28 different parishes and counties within Louisiana and Arkansas. But building a relationship that's built on trust with your financial institution really involves the credit union saying, hey, I realize that this loan might be great for me as a loan officer. However, we look at it as it's important for us to not only just have this conversation with you today about this car, but just like you mentioned earlier, it's the steps that you became to become a homeowner. Yes. And that's kind of the whole full circle moment that we're looking for as a credit union. So I thank you so much for talking about the importance of building a relationship with someone local, and hence what's led us to our conversation today of talking about ways in which which we can get you in a vehicle, taking a look at the inventory through Vaughn Auto Group. So I thank you for that.
Oh, you definitely
I'm
will.
so glad that you've shared that with us today. And Kais, just for our listeners, as we kind of wrap up our conversation, was there anything else that you wanted to add today?
Honestly, I'll just tell, everybody that trusts in Centric, that it's one of those things that going into the credit unions, go into it with confidence, learn who your local credit unions are, see what they can do for you. And again, I'll say it 1,000 times more because I love telling that to my customers. Allow your business and your money to stay local. I view your credit unions like Centric as a local business, not a it's not a franchise lender that just forgets about you. And walk in there, look at them. And if you're a new buyer, something we touched on, this may be a great opportunity for you after you watch this is to walk in and say, hey, let me see what Centric has to offer me. When I'll make the comment when they say live better, I promise you, when I have started my experience through Centric, it allowed me to put myself in confidence as a buyer now. If I make a phone call saying, hey, I'd like to get help, I'd like to purchase a vehicle, there's more confidence in it today because I've learned this process and the steps. So just learn what you're looking to buy. Know your budget. If you don't have a family or friend that knows how to help you, just go to your credit union and let them sit with you, walk you through what could be a vehicle you could be approved for. And I think it'll make you a very happy buyer when you walk into a dealership. I find that those customers that walk in with the confidence of an approval from their credit unions and they know what they're going to be approved for when they leave my store, they're going to walk in with more knowledge. They know what vehicle they need to pick. The sales consultants are probably happier. They're going to walk in and say, hey, look, I got this customer. He's already been pre-approved for $30,000. Here's the vehicles that I have. And it will narrow down your search, allow you to see what you want, and just makes it where when you walk out of the dealership, one, we don't have this spending hours. I think everybody dreads that of spending 4 or 5 hours at a dealership. It cuts down that process by possibly half, if not more. And you leave there happy, confident as a buyer that you're on a vehicle that you can budget to. So know your credit union and try to at least use them as a access point into buying a car, especially if you're a new buyer.
Sure. Well, tell our listeners too, as we're wrapping up, where you're exactly located and how someone might want to research the inventory you have at your credit union, at your dealership.
So we're located in Bastrop, Louisiana, right off 165, right down the road, right before you get into Walmart. We're probably about a block away from the Walmart Supercenter. So we're right there to your left off 165. You can go to vaughntoyota.com or even visit our main central website, which is vaughnvalue.com. Our inventory, like I always tell people with confidence, we have access to every vehicle that is all the way down from the Zachary location to the Natchitoches location. So if there's a vehicle on my website, if it's not in my store, all you have to do is contact us, contact one of the sales consultants, ask for it to be brought up. We don't charge our consumers to bring vehicles up, so it is with no pressure. We don't ask customers to pre-qualify because the first part of purchasing a vehicle is seeing the vehicle, touching the vehicle, and feeling confident about the vehicle. If it's pre-owned vehicle, we completely understand that it's not like a new car. You need to know that you've touched it, you drove it, and it's as great as it should be. So I always tell our customers that if you see something on our websites, feel free to contact us and please come by the store. We'll walk you through every process. We'll even get you tied in with the credit unions and allow you to see what privilege you may be available for. So if you're not sure, just visit our website, come down to our store, and our sales consultants, I'm very proud of our team. I think you'll see very quickly how ready they are to help you in any ways that we can help you with.
I love that, Kais. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. We value you as a member. And thank you so much for just really leading our members here to the credit union and to our sister credit unions within our community. I think your experience has really paired well for you, especially as you're growing your own consumer base. And so I just appreciate the trust that we have together. So thanks for tuning in to the Live Better podcast with Centric. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on social media at MyCentric. We'll see you next month. Centric is federally insured by the NCUA.